Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Vallen, and this is Immersive Engineering for Minecraft 1.10. And today we're going to be covering a little bit of the high voltage, plus a little bit more on the power generation. So first, let's introduce you to HV cables. This is high voltage stuff. It's a little bit different from before, specifically because it uses a lot of steel in its creation. Previously, we were trying to avoid using steel, and this is where we start getting into using a little bit of it, specifically the Thermoelectric Generator, as well as the HV stuff. There's plenty more that can be used with steel as well, but I'm just starting off with a little bit here so that you can get into more of the basics. So before we get into the power gen, let's get into the higher power. Now, with high voltage stuff here, we currently have a bit of a switch up. First and foremost, you get some of this green stuff. It's like, what's all this about? It's made with insulating glass. Which the recipe for that is basically just some glass. Ignore this other recipe. I have multiple mods in here, but it's glass plus some iron grit, cactus green, and you'll get a couple of those. We'll make you some of these like relays if you need them for your high voltage, which is aluminum ingots plus some insulating glass will get you your wire relays. Not too bad so far, right? Well, then you get into the connectors as well as the coils. And as before, they work exactly the same way as low voltage and medium voltage. Recipe is going to be hardened clay and aluminum, so, not too bad. But then you get into the coil. And the coil is made from aluminum, treated sticks, or just regular sticks, which is preferred because that's cheaper, and steel wire, which of course is going to be steel plate that's been hammered down in some way, shape, or form. So yeah, to make the steel cable, the HV wire coil, you're going to need steel for that. So therefore, you're going to have to start making a little bit on it. But there are some definite advantages in this. First and foremost, you have the least amount of energy loss on this cable, or on this coil, I should say, compared to medium voltage and low voltage coiling. Now, another thing is that it goes up to 32 blocks in length instead of 16, like the other two do. So you can go much further to power your stuff instead of having to, like connect, a lot of little machines together within 6 blocks. Instead, you can go up to 32. Very, very good indeed. Now, moving on from there, we also have your HV capacitor, which is the matching item for that. And it works the same as the other capacitors. You get your input, your output, and nothing. You can have multiple connectors on all sides, but it will store 4 million. Plus, the connectors will handle up to 4096 for the RF or IF or whatever kind of power you want to choose, except for EU. That's like times 4 version or divide by 4. Anyway, but it handles 4096 per connection. And the cables themselves, the coils, they will handle 32,768, which of course is, 8 times 4096. So you can have up to 8 inputs coming into a relay, for example. And that's just a lot of power, which you're going to need for some of the machines in Immersive Engineering. Now, we also have, you're probably familiar with this from the previous video, a transformer. But this one here is a HV transformer. You can take low voltage or medium voltage and connect them onto here. For instance, let me grab some low voltage here, connect them onto here, and you'll see that actually changed up. Then I can connect here to there. And we currently have this thing connected, and it would be functioning if there's any power left in it. Let me switch this around to input and change this to output. There we go, and it's dropping quite rapidly, in fact, so I'm going to stop that. There we go. Let's make that output. And this back to input, and it'll take it back rather slowly in comparison. But there you go, you can switch. That's low voltage. Let's grab some medium voltage, snip this other wire out of the way. We don't need that anymore. And we can hook this up. And then we have this one currently working, which is not going to work as before because, there we go, I just switched it, and it just pushes it out real fast. So let me switch that, switch this, and then it comes back in. So I'm right-clicking with the hammer as I do this stuff, just so that you are aware. Now, let me click this, And so therefore, this is a really good method of converting from low or medium up into high voltage or back down as you need it, of course. So that's pretty much high voltage in a nutshell. I mean, there is the... I should say that the HV transformer is made with just some iron high voltage coil block, which is not cheap. It's a lot of HV wire coil, which of course is made from steel. But with it, let's snip this here, and I'm going to grab here and connect here. And if you connect to the capacitors, you could connect one to another, but as before, you still can't connect those because it can only handle one connection per connector. Same as before. There are no advantages to that, but the relays work just like before as well, and therefore you can have this functioning as you desire. Of course, let me switch. Whoops, wrong side there. There we go, and you can see, whoop, it just drained it all out, and it took it all into this one. That was right quick and in a hurry. And it was limited to 4,096 RF per tick, but that was, because there's one connector pushing it out, even though there are two connectors receiving it. But you got it right there. So let's get into some power gen. Let me clear all this stuff out of here. We've got a new kind of power gen here, and that is the Thermoelectric Generator. Recipe for this is steel. As I said, there is going to be more steel in this, and this is just for one of them. Of course, copper coil block and some constantan plates, which of course are made with a hammer and some of the constantan that you have to make, which I explained in a previous video. Now, with this, you can, I am using HV cable for all of this, just for demonstration purposes. You don't have to use HV. Usually, low voltage is going to be just fine, or the LV cable and LV capacitors. It's all entirely up to you. Put that out. I don't want fires burning around here. But the idea is you put a cold source on one side of the block and a hot source on the other side of the block, and therefore it will generate power from the temperature difference. Then you have it connected into your capacitor here, like so. And you can see that it is currently gaining power, pretty decently there. It generates a little bit of RF. It's not very much, but you can feasibly double it up. For instance, I have two inputs here, and they're connected to a relay. If I connect this here, you'll get double the input because you're making double. Now, if you put lava here, water here, it's not going to work because you're going to have cool on opposite each other and hot opposite each other. You need to have them hot and cool opposite to each other. There is one exception, but it's not water or lava. So let's move into some of the different things you can do here. Now, I have water and lava, as you see here, and I am using some Ender IO stuff just so that you can see the differences that we have going on. Now, if I connect this, it jumps up really quick at the beginning because there is some already stored in the generator, but then it settles down around 14 or 15. I'm just going to call it RF per tick at this point. Then we move into the next one, which this is the same, but due to issues, if I use ice, it will then increase a little bit, like 16. But over time, unless you're in a cold biome, the ice is going to melt. As you saw, there was a puddle of water there. So it's not the most reliable item to use. And of course, you can double these, as I was showing you over here. So any of these can be doubled around the same single block. So you can get 30. You can get, whoops, let's do that again. Put that in there. There you go. You can get 32 out of that one. What you really want to do, though, is go for packed ice, which is going to get you quite a bit. Now, packed ice, of course, is a little bit more uncommon to find. But once you get that, you can get yourself, your standard 16 RF per tick, as opposed to the water. But hey, I mean, water is going to do just fine. So with that in mind, we also have this new item here, U92. That's right, uranium, which is just a block of uranium. I mean, it's just, uranium ingots put together in block form makes this. And it works in multiple ways. It works as cool and it works as hot, but it doesn't work against each other. There has to be a difference. So let me connect this and you'll see here. So currently it's acting as kind of a cooling agent because I don't know how it really, I guess it's the whole radioactive idea, but you get about 13 from this. So that's not bad. You get about 13 RF per tick out of it. It's not as good as the packed ice, and actually it's weaker than the water, but it still works. So that's something to take into account. Now, if we continue on down the road, though, it works better as a hot source, I should say. So if we take this as a hot source and use regular water instead of lava, we use the uranium blocks, you get a lot more. Look at this, 20 versus 15. That's 5 more RF per tick. Then we connect this here and we put in the regular ice block, get ourselves a little bit, it's like a half an RF difference, really. It's not enough to justify, but then you get into the packed ice, and it jumps in to around 21-ish RF per tick. It varies a little bit. But don't forget, you can double these by, putting U92. For instance, I can just do this here and this here, and that's going to increase the input to double. So there you go. 42 RF per tick. You can do that with all of these items. And you could also make yourself a farm of these, plunk them all down in the ground, have all your capacitor banks hooked up to multiple relays and so on. And it can be quite generous, because this is all passive. You don't need to do anything. It's just here, power making itself. So in comparison to this, where you can get, anywhere from like a few RF to like upwards of 90 if you really, really, really max that thing out. But you can make this a little bit more organized and clean in a machinery type area, whereas this is more of a pretty and simple and also, well, wood and creosote. It's with like one piece of steel per wheel. It's really cheap and can produce a lot of energy. A lot of people tend to go for that because this can also be intensive. I mean, uranium, that's a block of uranium. That's 9 ingots. You don't find that stuff everywhere. So it's not as expectant to get there that quickly. But you do get a fair amount from just water and lava. You get some packed ice. You can get yourself a little bit more. And that's like really cheap stuff. But of course, packed ice, you're going to need like a silk touch pick or something like that. So if you go with this, you can get 30 RF per tick out of like a 4x4 area. And you got your, or 3x3 area, I should say, where you just kind of put these down. Let me put down something here. And I think I've got a bucket of water. No, I don't. There we go. And we just put this down, that down, and that's going to double into 30 RF per tick. And I mean, that's really simple and basic. Sure, there's a little bit of lava. You just don't put flammables around it. You don't surround it by wood or anything. And you should be good to go. You get 30 RF per tick, and you can have multiple of these. So I could then feasibly put one of these next door to it even. So let me grab this, and I'll put this here. And then I could have lava right there. And then we could plonk down another one. So you see how it can, of course I'm making a mess, but you see how it can be very organized, compact method of generating passive RF with no fuel required. So there you go, folks. Nothing really too fancy today, just a little bit more of your power options that you have before we start getting into more interesting and creative stuff. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to hit the like, subscribe, and spread the mischief to others. And until next time, folks, I'll see ya.